welcome. I'm Iman Aish, and you are watching Women Spring. Today, have Tony Lorius, real estate broker with Fairfax Realty Select, and we're gonna talk about what you need to know when you purchase a home for the first time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. People, first-time home buyers, they think it's necessary. They must have like 20% down payment before. They must save 20% before they go out and look for houses. Is this true or false? Can you educate?
It was true to a point. Back in the old days, you were required to have a bigger down payment, 20% or more, to buy a house. But then the different programs and the government itself stepped in and created the FHA programs, which allow first-time home buyers to buy a house with a little down payment. At that time, I think it was 5%, and then they lowered it down to 3.5%. So that was true back in the old days, no longer the truth now. Now, people can buy houses without having a down payment sometimes. Sometimes there's programs that would allow you to buy a house, like a VA programs for veterans of the armed forces, to buy with no down payment. And so there's a lot of different programs that...
State of Virginia also has like VHDA
Yes.
loans. They give the down payment to the borrowers as a second loan.
Yes.
With low interest rate.
Yeah,
so,
very good rates.
yeah.
And that's a good program too. Absolutely. That's part of the state program to help home ownership. And so, yes.
Okay. Why is it important for, when somebody decide to buy a house, why it's important to hire their own agent?
It is very important because when you're looking for a house, you want to make sure that you have somebody that is helping you to protect your interest. Kind of like having your own attorney there, except we're not attorney, we're real estate agents, and we're going to be, the agent will be looking out for the best interest for the buyer in that case. So they will know, or they will advise you what's best for them in that situation, whatever the situation is. And so it's always good thing to have a realtor with you when you go see houses. If you go on your own to open houses, just casual, they will try to earn your business, but they may not represent you. So.
Yeah, so when an agent represent me or any buyer, what they are really expected to do, like they tell me what to offer for the house, or like the fair price for the house, or like how I'm gonna determine that?
Well, that's determined by different things. One of them, the realtor will be searching the market and advising according to what is going on in that area, whatever area that is, and compare different houses to the houses that you're looking for, and then suggest the price for the buyer. Now, ultimately, the buyer is the one that is going to make the final decision on it, but you will have a more knowledgeable decision to do when you've been advised on it. So.
What about when I decide to sign a contract to purchase a home? How is the agent gonna protect my rights, like, under this contract?
Well, the agent should be knowledgeable about the contract that the buyer is signing. The agent should be able to explain the buyer what the contract is and what all the ins and out of it is, what the buyer is supposed to do and the seller is supposed to do, what other options do they have to proceed with the contract, what happens if one party doesn't comply with what they're agreed to do, or things like that. Home inspections, just an example. A lot of people skip that part because they think that they don't have to do it, or they don't advise to do it. I highly suggest any buyer to do a home inspection, always. It's much cheaper to do things before you go into a house, like buy a house, let's say $300,000 home, to spend some money up front to find out if the property it's okay to buy, rather than finding out later that the house has got a lot of issues with it.
Yeah, especially with first-time home buyers with a limited budget, so they don't wanna, like, after they close on a house, they found, big surprise. They need to replace a roof or the heating or cooling system, which costs thousands of dollars. So if I'm looking in a specific neighborhood and I see the listing agent sign on the yard, is that okay if I call them to show me the house and write a contract for me, or?
I wouldn't suggest you to do that because in that case, basically, the agent that is selling the house is representing the seller. It may not necessarily mean that he's going to represent you and your best interest in that aspect. So I wouldn't do that. I would just call the agent.
They wouldn't advise me to do a home inspection, or like?
They may not. I don't know, because they're not representing you, and so they're not going to be looking out for your best interest. While if you have somebody that represents you, this person is going to be representing your best interest. And so in not only home inspection, it can be also different things, title, lenders, and all different aspects of the process that this agent should be advising, this first-time home buyer to do before they proceed with the purchase.
Okay, if I'm a first-time home buyer and I saved my down payment, where should I start? Like, I decide to buy a house, where should I start?
First things you need to do is get pre-approval. Get pre-approval by a lender. You can contact your regular regular bank where you have your savings or accounts. See what they can offer you. You can also talk to a realtor, in this case, an agent, and ask them that you're interested in buying a house, and that you would like to know what to do next. And usually the first step that I advise them to do is to get pre-approved. Now, with my advice, I can suggest different lenders to go to that I work with. Not necessarily they're my preferred lenders, but I know them for a long time, and so I have kind of got a rapport with them. Or they can just go to a regular bank and get approved. Usually, regular banks are not the best to do the mortgages, because they really have certain products that they only offer, and so they're not as flexible as all the different lenders. It all depends on the situation.
Okay. So to get pre-approval letter before I decide to move forward.
Absolutely.
Now I have the pre-approval letter. What's the next step?
Once you get pre-approved by a lender and you know the amount of loan you can qualify for, then the next step will be for the buyer and the realtor to sit down and decide what kind of property they need, they like, what area do they like, and then start going through that choices. And then once they focus on a specific area, then they can start searching for properties in that area and go start seeing the properties with the agent.
Okay. Before, like in the pre-approval phase, based on what the bank will approve somebody and deny somebody?
Well, a lot of things go into play there. The credit is very important with lenders. You have to have a minimum. I don't know. Some lenders require minimum of credit score.
640, I think.
Credit score can go anywhere from 400 to 800, somewhere there.
But to buy a house, minimum is, I think, 650.
Depends. Mm-hmm. It all depends on what the bank's requirements are. Different banks require different things, and so that's one thing. The credit score is one thing. The other thing is the employment. A lot of lenders require a 2 years minimum employment history.
For the same career, like if you are an engineer, you need to be an engineer for 2 years before you go out and apply for a mortgage.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Now, that's just the norm.
Okay.
Again, different lenders have different requirements. Someone may not require a 2 year. Let's say you came from a different country to work here, but you come in with the same line of work. That's
like banking,
yes.
and you used to do banking overseas, and then when you come here, you work in a bank. This is the same line of work.
Yes. So
Okay.
I think in that instance, they can probably say, yes, this is the same line of credit, this is the same type of work, the same salary, so this can be accomplished. That's just an example.
Okay.
If you're self-employed, how long have you been? Usually they require 3 years, sometimes 2 years, and you have to have the income
To
taxes
qualify for
for a loan.
for the loan.
Yes.
It's usually. Do you know like if there is a formula, like how much your mortgage payment should be, like comparing to your income?
Usually it's anywhere between 29% and 45%. It's
Okay.
the average. Now there's some that go lower, some other go 50%. It all depends. A lot of things go into play again. Credit score, employment, down payment,
Debt.
debt. So all
Yeah.
of that is part of this
This
formula that they have.
Okay.
So basically it's total income minus debts multiplied by 45%, let's just say, or 38, depends on what the number is,
Mm.
or income multiplied by 29%, if not debts. And then again, all those numbers are not set, but they're depends on what the lender is
Requirement.
requiring.
Okay.
Yes.
What are the benefits of home ownership?
Oh, the benefits are huge. When you rent a property, you're basically paying somebody else's mortgage or house. And when you move out, you probably may not even get the security deposit you put when you move in. Yes, the landlord may do all the maintenance for the property, but he's getting the benefit of you paying his house. Eventually, he owns that property for 30 years. That property is paid off. You paid it off for him. And then you decided to go out, you have nothing. The most important thing is the equity that you're acquiring when you're buying a house.
Yeah, you build the equity.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you, let's just say, buy a house today, and the house continue to appreciate in prices, just a round number.
Mm.
When you decided to sell 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, if the house has appreciated, then all that profit goes to you.
Yeah, you build the equity. Yeah.
So that's just a simple benefit. The other benefit is this is your house.
And what about the tax benefits?
That's also a tax benefit. When you rent, you cannot claim that rent on your taxes.
You can claim the rent?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
When you own a house, you can deduct the mortgage interest that you paid on your house
And the property tax?
and the taxes too.
Okay.
So that's also a benefit. Also, when you own a house, you have the freedom of maybe doing stuff that you want to do. Let's just say you want to change the color in the inside of the house.
Oh, you want to make an addition?
Whatever they make an addition, if that's allowed, then you can do that. If you live in somebody's property, you cannot do that because that's not going to be that's not your house.
So let's add add the benefits, which is like equity build-up,
Yes.
tax benefits,
Tax benefits.
yeah,
Freedom of your own.
like building for your retirement. Like by the time you retire or you are ready to retire, you paid off your house.
Yes,
and
and
you have an asset that's paid off.
And that's the goal. Actually,
Yeah.
that's the goal that I advise everybody. I say when you buy a house, your goal will be to pay this house off. That way you won't have a mortgage, in my opinion. And then you can just, if anything happened where you don't, you just live with your retirement, you don't have to worry about paying,
A mortgage
the
or
mortgage
rent
or
when
rent.
you are old.
Yeah, if you're retired and you don't have a house, you got to pay that rent, whether you have money or not. And if your retirement doesn't cover that, you're really in serious trouble. So
Yeah, and I think the tax law allow married couple, like if you bought your house in the 90s and it appreciated, increased in value like up to 500,000, and you decide to sell, you don't pay taxes on 500,000 for a married couple.
right,
For a single person,
250,000.
250,000. So there is tax benefits
Of
also.
course, yes.
Yeah.
So that
You
one
get
is,
the shelter up to 500,000 for a married couple and not pay taxes on it when you decide to sell your house when it appreciates in value up to 500,000.
Absolutely, yes. So that's one of the benefits, yes. Because when you, let's say you buy a house today and it appreciates in value and you sell it for 500 in profits after whatever years, you know, all that profits, you will not pay taxes on it if you qualify. I mean, if it's your primary residence.
If it's your primary
Yeah,
residence.
it has to be your primary residence, so.
Yeah, and for primary resident, you can write off the interest in the mortgage and the first million.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Let's see another side of the real estate transaction, which is the listing. What are the responsibilities for the listing agent? What do they really do? Like when I hire you to sell my house, what would you do for me?
Again, yes. So now we're on the other side of the equation, and so now, if you hire an agent to sell your house, now you're having somebody who is going to be looking out on the best interest for you as the seller.
When you say the my best interest as a seller, what that include?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna analyze the market, find out what the prices of the property are selling in these areas, and present it with to the seller, and tell him this is what I came up with, and this is my suggestions about what you price it to have it sold.
Okay.
The next thing is that the realtor can suggest to your homeowner improvements that can be done to maximize the profit of the property, or the price of the property. The next thing is negotiate contracts when you get the offers.
So you will try to get me the highest price possible?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the.
So your job as a listing agent or my agent as a seller is to get me the highest price possible.
Right.
So if somebody, make a sign call and tell you, I want to buy your listing, you will be looking after my interest,
yes.
not this buyer interest.
No, absolutely.
You will try to get me the highest price. Okay.
So yeah, that's why it is important for buyers and sellers to have their own realtors, because they're going to be looking out for their client's best interest, whatever that is. So if I represent
client is
you,
the person you sign with first.
yes.
Okay.
So yes, you have to sign an agreement saying that yes, I want to work with you exclusively. I want you to represent me just, to buy a house, and they will work with you exclusively, and you have to work with the other agent exclusively until you find a house. So either to buy a house or to sell a house.
So everybody should have his own agent representing him.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. What is the step after that, after I get a pre-approval and I hire an agent to find me a home? What is the next step? What do I need to do next?
The next step after you hire a realtor, you got pre-approval, you start looking for properties, you found a house that you like, and you should prepare. The realtor will prepare an offer and submit it to the seller. The seller can either accept what you offer or counter it back, whatever it is. Either can be price, it can be items, to be left, or things to be done, things like that. That's
contract terms. Okay.
That's going to be part of the negotiations from the buyer and seller, standpoint. After that contract has been ratified by both parties, as to what both parties are agreed to do and not to do, then the next step will be either, if it's my client, I will suggest them that we should include in the offer we're submitting to do a home inspection.
Okay.
Very important for first-time home buyers to do a home inspection always. It costs anywhere between $300 to $500, somewhere there. But that home inspection is going to tell the buyer all the goods and bad things about the house. And at that point, they can either decide to move forward with it or cancel this contract.
So the contract will have exit strategies to allow buyers to get out of the contract if they are not satisfied with certain things?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yes, as part of the
what are those things that allows a buyer to get out of the contract without losing his earnest money deposit, the money they give when...
The earnest money deposit it's a money that the buyers will put as part of the contract, telling the seller, Mr. Seller, I am serious about buying your house.
Okay.
I am putting X amount of dollars as a security deposit. And usually that money goes either to the real estate company or to a title company or attorney.
Okay.
They will hold it in a special account,
Escrow account.
in an escrow account where that money cannot be
Touched.
given to anybody until both parties come to an agreement.
Okay.
Now, when you tell the seller about that, then the seller say, okay, he's serious. Now I'm going to do a home inspection.
Okay.
You do the home inspection, you do not come to an agreement as to things that needed to be fixed. And so under that same contract, there's a part that says that if we don't agree to the terms of negotiation for the home inspection, then I have the right to cancel the contract and get my money back.
Within a time frame.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Usually it's within the home inspections usually is 7 days after they have ratified the contract,
Okay.
and 3 days to negotiate the contract, and 3 days to decide whether they want to move forward or not.
And if they didn't move forward within the time frame, they can walk away
Yes.
and get their earnest money deposit back.
Yes. Get that money back.
What other exit strategies my realtor should put for me in the contract?
The other strategy is the appraisal.
Okay.
So the appraisal is the person that goes from the lender, from the bank, to assess the property to make sure that the property is worth what you're paying for.
Okay.
Because the bank want to make sure that
I'm not paying too much.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because the banks is the ones that's giving most of the money.
Exactly.
And so they send that the buyer will pay for that appraisal to go out there, and then come back with a report and tell them the house is worth X amount. Let's just say, for instance, that they say, the appraiser say, no, this is not worth this amount of money. What happened? So that's when the realtor also come in play and say, the options you have is either you come up with the difference, from what you're offering and what the bank is giving you.
Mm-hmm.
You can also cancel the contract.
Or negotiate to have them reduce the
Right.
price.
Ask the seller to reduce the price.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't come to an agreement again, they can cancel the contract and get their money back.
Okay, so this is exit strategy number 2. What
Yeah.
is the third one?
The third one is the financing.
Okay.
So I applied for the loan, that the appraisal went through, everything is fine. But then, for whatever reason, the lender requirements did not meet what I can do. And so the lender denied the loan. So what happened is the lender will say, well, based on the criteria we have, we cannot approve your loan. And so they send that, it's a denial letter. They send it
What
to,
are the reasons that can cause that? Like credit score
can be credit
go
score,
down, or
time on the job. They may have quit the job, or may have changed job and maybe different job.
okay.
It's a lot of reasons can be, that can be, but that's part of the financing contingency.
Okay, or they went out and made a major purchase after they
That's
signed the contract,
Also,
so it
a
affected
big
their
thing, yes. And they
yeah.
went in after they ratify
Buy a
a
car
contract,
or
they buy a
something.
car, they go on
It's like-
a shopping
so-
spree, and
yeah,
so
We need to tell the first-time home buyers as well, do not buy anything if you are,
right,
planning to purchase a house, because everything gonna affect your financial situation. Your debt gonna affect, if you will be approved or not.
of course, yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's also something that always remind them. Whenever you start looking for houses, do not go and buy anything else.
Yeah.
Just wait until that. Also, do not make huge deposits to the account or withdrawals from the account,
Cash deposits.
because
yeah.
that's also, the banks wants to know all of that. They will ask for
source of money.
source of fund. Yes.
Yeah.
So and it's best if they have money that they haven't put it in the bank, to put it before they start the process, and so that money is going to be there
yeah.
and it's going to be accountable for.
Yeah, because the bank will be looking at the bank statements for 2 months, the
Yes.
last 2 months.
Right. And they usually do one right before they go to closing. So they check the
They
credit
update
score,
the credit
Yes.
report.
all of
right?
that. So they will know that. They want to make sure that you're responsible, then that you can capable of doing this purchase, because they really don't want to take the house away from you.
Correct. So what is there any more exit strategies my realtor should, make sure it's on place for me before I sign a contract?
Well, I think that most of those are the most important ones. I'm
What about homeowner association documents? If the property located in a community
If-
with an HOA,
well, that's also a homeowners or condominium association is also another things, but that's also if the property is part of that condominium association, you will be by law required to receive the rules and regulations
the
from the
resale package, yeah.
from that association or condominium association to make sure that you are okay with whatever requirements they have to live in that community.
And
yeah.
this will allow me to cancel the contract
Absolutely. You will-
after how long?
3 days.
3 days.
So once you receive those rules and regulations from the association, you have 3 days to decide whether to move forward or not. But you've got to make sure that you read those documents to make sure that you understand what you're getting into it. Because once those 3 days are over,
You're done.
you're done.
Great information. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in.